they were claiming that India had 300,000 or more, 400,000 people in the middle class.
A million?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know.
I haven't heard any more about it since then. That's been.
Well, India's got 1 billion people now, right?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it's got 1 billion population. Yeah.
They're talking about China going toward 1.5 billion in a few years.
Yeah, it's at 1.3, I think.
Yeah, 1.3 now. Yeah.
But they're
Although
really,
I don't know how they count that. I mean, come on.
I imagine.
Whose word are you taking for that?
I don't know. I would think, you know, with those kinds of populations, the quality of life really has to be effective. You know, China's got what, 700-800 million people in abject poverty. I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, they probably have no choice except to expand and grow and industrialize as fast as they possibly can with that number in poverty.
Yeah, but you don't need big houses.
Well, I mean, they got it. I mean, what else? Why else are people going to do what they want? You know, I mean. So they just trample on their people and, you know, whatever, and it's all in the name of progress. Because what else are you going to do if you got that many people in poverty? Same with India. I mean, India's got an enormous poverty problem. They can't figure it out. But what it doesn't seem that either country's doing is something that Mexico can't do. And they can't really address the poverty problem. Can't really do it.
Speaking of India, I was reading in the Spanish paper OOC that they had a stampede there in India.
House?
No, some religious thing they were having on the Ganges River, and so you got to have a stampede and it killed about 20 people.
They're always doing the crazy things here. Well,
oh my goodness.
I suppose if you're Indian, you're going to say, well, you know, we got people that, you know, are just religious nuts, and we can't eliminate it, you know. We got a caste system there, for instance, that's a prevalent social thing and has been there for, you know, millions of years. Ever since millions of years, ever since, you know, we walked out of the rivers and up on the land, you know, the fish did, you know, we've had a caste system in India and we can't get around it. And so we're mired in this.
Well, you know about the theory that of the Indo-Aryan race and languages that. You know, all the languages like of Europe, and
right.
Sanskrit even are all actually related to
right.
ancient language about 10,000 years ago or whatever. And so actually the people that represented, quote, white, unquote, people from the West actually came in and conquered India, and they became the Brahmins and whatnot, and instituted the caste system. And the ones that are, you know, darker skinned and whatnot, like the Sri Lankans, etc. The untouchables are the ones that are on the lower class.
But how do you get around that? It's a cultural thing. I mean, you can't ignore it. If you got India probably
it's supposedly
has
illegal by the Constitution.
India probably has 500 million people in abject poverty that are religiously off the deep end.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, if you're an
Indian...
Indian...
They tried to go secular
right.
20 years
ago,
and then, what's his name, the Hindus came back.
Yeah, so it ain't going to work. You can't eliminate that. It's only going to... Culture, you can't eliminate it from one day to the next. It takes generations to do that. So, I mean, if you're... Yeah,
but I'd say effort does have to be made. I mean... you know, at some point...
Well, it's not going to be in your lifetime or my lifetime where there's going to be any, you know, maybe in 100 or 200 years.
Whether it's not totally achieved doesn't necessarily mean that the effort wasn't necessary at the beginning.
Imagine yourself as a middle-class Indian.
Imagine there had been no Enlightenment, you know, which went directly attacked the Catholic Church in France.
Wow.
At the epicenter.
Okay, but how long did that take? How long did that take? And it's still going on.
It's still going on. But it still had to be done. It had to be done.
But imagine you're a middle-class Indian there, and you're looking at your country, and you're thinking, well, there's 500 million people that are in abject poverty, and the vast majority of those are in some kind of warped religious, you know, in some other twilight zone, and you look at that and you would think this is just an impossible thing. I mean, it's just an impossible. Like if I have Chinese, I would say it's impossible. You got 800 million Chinese in abject poverty. Even if you got 500 million that are aspiring middle class, it's still not going to eliminate the others. You're still going to have that problem. And so it would seem to me like it's, those countries, you would almost say that they've got, you can't say impossible, but it almost seems like it is. They're just not going to get out of it because they're just going to be mired in it forever. And the only thing is maybe 100 or 200 or 300 years down the road, these slow reforms come in and they slowly change things, and then the old generation dies off and the newer generation's a little more, a little less backward, a little less, mired in the past. And so, it's a slow progression out of it. Maybe that's the way it's going to be. But the numbers are just staggering.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
The numbers are just absolutely staggering. You just cannot, the Chinese economy, absolutely no way can it deal with that number of people and bring them up to middle class. I'm sorry. I just don't see how it can.
Well, it's also the history, too. I mean, it just had that situation for thousands of years, and
it's not going to happen. And same with India. It's just not going to happen. And to a certain extent, you look at Africa as another example. The cultural backwardness and the cultural obstacles are so difficult to overcome. How can a country, even a more progressive one like Kenya, look at the obstacle. If you're a Kenyan, you just got to be thinking, this is impossible. Let alone if you're from a country like Mali or Nigeria or, one that has warring tribes, still going on. There you just got to say, well, I'm getting out of here, probably. A lot of them probably just leave.
Well, I know for a fact that's...
you know for a fact that, they're getting the hell out of there, And see, I look at a country like Mexico that can't seem to resolve the poverty issue. Just not been able to do it. And so half of Mexico is considered to be in poverty. And I think it's 20 or 25% of those, which are, like 20 million, are abject poverty, meaning basically you don't know if you're going to eat tomorrow or not. I mean, that's on the very, very bottom rungs there. And so, despite the oil, despite the technology, despite the trade, can't get out of it. And the numbers are much less because you're only talking about 50 million Mexicans. You're not talking about 500 million Indians
there's
or
8 million people in Mexico.
Yeah, but not in poverty.
Oh, yeah.
There's people that have jobs and they got little houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about the people that live in shanties, that don't have regular jobs, that sell stuff on the street or occasionally laborers, that kind of thing. And we're only talking about 50 million people. Imagine in India, you're talking about 500 million or 600 million. You're talking about twice the population of the United States. I mean, you think every man, woman, and is in abject poverty. The numbers are just staggering. So that's been a big failure of modern civilizations, not been able to address that. And certainly,
that was certainly the impetus of communism.
Well, that certainly was no answer. I mean, it just, if anything, made it worse. Like in Mexico, the Zapatistas are the poorest. They're the communists in Mexico. They're the poorest.